All right, well, I'm going to dive into the Bitcoin charts, sharing my view, starting with the lower time frames and working up to the higher time frames. And then we'll work into order flow as well. So I'm going to start by just saying why I think there's a case for being long here. Even though I suspect it's more likely that we break down some of this ascending structure. And we'll dive into some of the levels down here in a moment. But trading this locally, I think, is quite clean to be long off of this reclaim of these local lows. But actually, and just cutting if we break down. Because there actually is a high time frame point of control here. And we can see tested as resistance, resistance, now flipping to support. And ultimately, while we're holding above this level, there's no reason, in my view, to be particularly bearish. Even though there's quite a nice idea of just running some liquidity or even lower that I would like to trade. And I guess I wouldn't be surprised to see that happen. But I think it makes a lot of sense to be long here. I like longs here, and I'll dive into why from an order flow perspective as well. Okay, so let's go. I'll just give my views over the last few days. So this is a couple days ago, just pointing out, we have this ascending structure. We have this point of control. This is here in the members Discord. And this idea of running down into this trend line, could be a nice setup, either locally or for a push through all-time highs. And I'll talk about how I might manage that position. Now, even here, a couple days ago, I even shared this idea of just coming up and running these 4-hour highs here into the 618. This is around 69,500. And then running back down into this $66,700 level down at the point of control for a short setup into a long setup. That actually ended up playing out quite nicely. We got a nice rejection here. And I do want to go over some of the order flow at the highs and lows here, because I think that it's informative. And for those of you who are considering using order flow or would like to learn more about using it, it will be valuable. So anyways, we got that nice rotation. This is about a 3.5% range. The nice move up into the highs, then back into the lows. Took the lows, retested them. So we have the sweep, the retest. And I want to go over the order flow in this instance. So let me tab over to that. All right, so let's just start with the local lows here first. Obviously price can just come and break down all this liquidity, break down this ascending structure, and we'll get to the higher time frame levels in a moment. But this is the kind of thing I like to see. If, say, for example, we can go back to let's go back to the chart here really quickly. So this is on the 1-hour chart, but the idea for the short was to come up and take these highs into the 618, then come back down and sweep the liquidity down towards the point of control for a short into a long setup. But let's just say that you have the idea for either a short setup, prices down here, the idea of shorting this move and counter trading the impulse, or taking a long at the lows here. What are the kinds of things you'd like to see in order flow? And again, this doesn't mean there's no certainties that the trade's going to work, but where order flow might support this idea. First, we can start off with the first sweep of liquidity. We see all this aggressive selling coming in. A lot of it's going to be longs getting stopped out. 6.3 million negative delta, 7.4 million, 5.4 million negative delta, 2.2. Bit of increasing open interest there. All that aggressive selling getting absorbed. Price pushes back up above. And then we see this lower high locally. And this would just be a very simple structural retest of the range lows. So it's kind of a perfect technical idea here where you have the sweep, the impulse, the retest. And what happens on the retest here? Well, we see really aggressive selling coming into this level. 7 million negative delta on this 5-minute candle, 8.3 million negative delta, increasing open interest, so aggressive selling, aggressive shorting coming in, positions opening, and then getting put underwater. All that selling getting absorbed by limit buyers. So for me, this is the kind of thing I'd like to see to support longs, because what I want to see is aggressive sellers coming in and shorting support, setting up a potential short squeeze. Now, For now, they're trading underwater. This is just the 5-minute chart. We could continue ranging here, and we could even take this low again and reclaim it, and it doesn't really invalidate the idea. But I would be very cautious if we break down and flip all this to resistance about being long, and I'll talk about why in a second. But we can even go back here, and this is just to hammer the point home on the order flow. Let's just say you were interested in some of the short setups that presented themselves. Well, first off, we have this high here. We can see aggressive longing coming in right at the highs. And here at the 618 idea, we had super aggressive longing coming in up here. So if you don't look at order flow very much, you might not know that this is a lot of longs opening in a 10-minute candle. First, we have decreasing open interest. So we have risk coming out of the market, shorts getting squeezed out. This next candle, 10.4 million positive delta on an increase in open interest right into that 618, and instantly getting punished as bigger traders fill their short positions into this aggressive longing, and people get wrecked, FOMOing into that breakout or trying to trade that breakout. And now we've rotated back to the lows. And so what are you seeing the aggressive traders doing? Well, aggressive longs at the highs, aggressive shorts at the lows. We even have a little bit of a bullish CVD divergence here. Now, what's so important to just note is this does not mean price will bounce. It's just what is my justification for not being long off this level? I think price is more likely to take some of the liquidity lower. But what I think doesn't really matter. If it does, I can just trade that separately. So anyways, I think this is a perfectly reasonable place to be long while we're holding this point of control. And if we flip it to resistance, then I'll just cut that position. Now, as far as taking profits go, well, we're in a range. Lower high, or initial high, lower high, lower high. This is locally. And you can see a little bit of a maybe triangle type shape forming here. And so maybe to consider taking profits locally would be prudent. And maybe this range just continues on and we come take some liquidity low later. And so I'll be actually looking to remove the risk for this position from this position and just hold a partial position for a potential move to all-time highs. But we could imagine a quite bullish scenario from here, which is we hold this up and we break out into all-time highs. And I think if that were to happen, I'd be shaking my head a little bit on to why I didn't take some risk on here to get long. It's a very clean level, and there's no reason to assume it's going to break down. But in the case it does break down, let's talk about some of the levels. Let's turn that into a group to the downside. Let me make sure I'm on the right screen because that would be annoying. Yeah, I am. All right. Well, the first idea here, I feel like it's almost too obvious, but maybe people aren't really looking at it. Now, let's look at it on the 4-hour chart here. We have all these consecutive higher lows, and it seems quite clean just to come in and run all these lows. We have our 618 of this leg up, maybe a little bit of a descending structure here if we hit it in the next few days. We come and take all these lows, run all the stops that are piled up inevitably under these lows. You just have a really clean long setup. And I don't necessarily think there's anything wrong with being patient for some of these higher time frame ideas. And I call them higher time frame because this level gets built over the course of weeks, right? As lows pile up and liquidity builds up. A lower time frame level is the type of level that didn't exist 4 hours ago because, you're maybe trading it on the 15-minute charts. But a higher time frame idea, which I'm about to share another one, it's going to be sitting there for potentially weeks or even months, depending on how price action unfolds. So this is the main idea to the downside. Just come and take all these lows here on the daily chart. You can even remove the TA, and it's just not so hard to see why this could be an interesting idea. Come in and take these lows, but again, we're trading above this point of control. So I'll be looking to trade around this if we show some signs of strength. If we just break it down, I'm just hopefully going to avoid taking the long because there's no structure here. And so the alternative idea is everyone's looking to trade this idea. They all get stopped out and we run these lows. And this actually has some nice confluence here. Let me go over it quickly. I've already gone over this level last week, so I'm not going to spend too much time. But you could say a little bit of an ascending structure here forming. This intersection would have been really nice if we got a nuke here with this descending structure and this ascending structure intersecting here right at the 618. But look at this as a range. Let me actually remove this volume profile for a second. Look at this as a range. This is a deviation. And this would be a range retest of this wick, these wicks. It's also our 618 from this low to this high. And it's our 786 of this move. And potentially this intersection of this ascending, descending structure. Now this ascending structure is still going to be relevant and the descending structure over the next 3 or 4 days. And so maybe it's something worth watching and calling this a bit of a region. I think the tightest that you could maybe look at justify trading this is letting price come down and run these lows and then waiting for the reclaim and then you're stopping under the new low. Alternatively, there's a chance we consolidate down here for a day and we get like a little local sweep and there might be a really clean low time frame set up to get long off something like that. All right, well, those are the long setups that I think make sense. The structure is very clear. You can also say right now we're at the middle of the range. So price is claiming and bouncing off the middle of the range. And that can be a strong continuation idea as well. So anyways, longs here make sense. As far as shorts go, man, it's hard to say, you know, like coming in and shorting these low time frame ideas, I think are fine. Like I shared that I would take shorts on these lower time frame setups, like this sweep into the 618 I talked about at the beginning of the video. But as far as swing shorts, I'm going to have a hard time justifying taking anything without coming up and taking all-time highs. I did take a short here because there was super bearish order flow. And so maybe we get something where we're consolidating with really bearish order flow and there's just a clean short trigger and that can get held. But I think as far as shorts go, unless we can come up and take all these highs, I'm not interested in taking new shorts as swing positions. Now that has nothing to be said about these local ranges, and like this can be a short trigger as I shared earlier, but I think taking profits into the local lows is probably prudent. Of course we may break down, but we'll see. All right, well, those are my thoughts.